Hey everyone. For this week on Frontlines Corner, we thought we would get into the front lines of what's actually going on out there in the venture space. It's not a secret to anyone that it's been a pretty rough time across the innovation ecosystem, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the air. The question is, when are things going to change? When are exits going to start again? When is funding going to become easier? And the answer, unfortunately, is we don't have a really good answer. And so there's a couple things I wanted to share with you as I was thinking about this and talking about it with some of our founders. One of the things I think we can do is just kind of sit with the uncertainty and just understand that it's frustrating and it's stressful. And we are experiencing that right alongside our founders, and I have great empathy for it. But it doesn't take us off the hook of acting. And the good news is that no matter how long the wait is to figure out what's going to happen with the economy, a lot of what we need to do as participants in the innovation ecosystem is kind of the same thing either way. And so I wanted to share with you a few thoughts that I had. So the first is, it's a time where we all need to reset expectations. The LPs need to understand that funds are taking write-downs. Fund managers need to honestly take those write-downs and show them. We're certainly doing our fair bit of that. And then founders need to reset expectations. A lot of what it is to be a founder is often, for better or for worse, to kind of look around the mountain and see wherever other climber is. And what I've seen and experienced over the last few months is that people are, while they intellectually understand that the economy's changed, viscerally they're saying, well, but how could I take a seed round? Just last year, a friend of mine raised at this valuation. And the real truth of it is that the situation's changed. It's not about you necessarily, it's not about your company, but the advice here is don't look back and don't look around so much. Valuations have reset, what might have traded at the top end of the multiples bracket, looking at forward 12-month projections on spec and subscribed within 2 weeks last year is taking 6 months to do. It's the low end of the valuation brackets, and it's looking back 12 months on actual revenues. And that's the entire sector writ large. It's also a good time to either figure out how to get to profitability or at least have a really clear plan for how to get there. EBITDA has always had an interesting relationship with the startup economy, but this is something we've instructed founders about for the entire existence of our firm. You have to at least understand how you're going to be profitable and be able to convince investors that there's a real pathway there. For every company like an Amazon that took decades to get to profitability, there's thousands that didn't make it because investors didn't buy that there was a real plan to get profitable. It's also a time for cost controls. This is not rocket science, and it's very unfortunate. Even our healthiest companies in our portfolio are undertaking strategic reductions in force. It's not something we take lightly. But it's really important to manage the burn right now and extend runway as much as possible. And that also means working with vendors. And certainly a lot of the companies in our portfolio are doing just that. There is a real emphasis on being open to all types of financing. So it's not just equity financing, it's not just the next financing round, but it is both looking at various forms of debt, although you have to be careful about that. It's looking at various other types of investors and also being open to creative structures and terms. We are seeing the return of things like participating preferreds, which are not particularly founder friendly, but not maybe as founder unfriendly as they've been made to seem. You want to be careful about multiple participating preferreds, for example, but you want to get, creative and be open to various kinds of financing at this important time in companies' histories. Last couple of things. This is a really important time for transparency and for really building a strong relationship with your allies. And the allies include your prior investors and your board of directors. And transparency with your cap table is key. If investors feel informed, they are more willing to step into a recapitalization round or take their pro rata in the next round. They're less likely to bother you with lots of questions. Transparency and openness and really leaning into your allies and working with them is an incredibly important part of the more difficult economic times. And last but not least, again, I'll come back to the idea of health and wellness here, both for you as founders and for your team. That transparency also goes to the team, and it helps people manage through really tough times when they feel like they know what's going on. And I think it's important for you to be able to take, as a founder, a few days here and there, even when you're working, incredibly hard to keep your company afloat, and center yourself and rely on those allies and talk to people and have that outlet. But I'll leave you with something positive, which is, not everyone makes it through times like this, but the companies that do make it through really difficult times are indeed stronger for it. And and we're seeing a consolidation in the tech sector now. But it does mean that the companies that make it through, I think, are going to be, have proven resiliency, have proven a lot about their companies, have a pathway to profitability, have a strong cap table, and a lot of the sacrifices that are made in times like these kind of get made good over time. My firm and I have been around for 15 years. Me, in the innovation sector for closer to 20 years. I've seen a few cycles now, including the great global financial crisis. And the good news is this will work itself out.